Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and look at what has to be the single most absurd, hilarious, yet completely factual military operation in human history, the 1932 Great Emu War. If you've ever just assumed that humans automatically have the upper hand over nature simply because of our modern technology, well, this incredible story is going to turn that assumption entirely upside down. We're going to explore exactly how a national military went head to head with a massive flock of flightless birds and spectacularly lost. Picture this, it's 1932, out in the harsh, arid farmlands of Western Australia. The local farmers, who had poured their blood, sweat, and tears into cultivating the unforgiving outback, were suddenly facing a massive, unprecedented invasion. We're talking about 20,000 hungry, migrating emus descending right onto their fragile wheat crops. This wasn't just a minor nuisance, it was a literal existential threat to their livelihoods. Just a tidal wave of feathers and beaks devouring absolutely everything in its path. Now, the official government response to this crisis was, well, a hilarious mismatch. On one side, you've got the mighty Royal Australian Artillery deploying just 3 men and 2 machine guns. And on the other side, an unwieldy feathered army of 20,000 flightless birds roaming freely across their home turf. Officials framed this as a serious pest control extermination, a quick in-and-out job. But as the military was about to find out in stunning fashion, they were woefully underprepared for this fight. Because these weren't just your average farmyard birds casually pecking at seeds, right? Emus belong to a family of flightless birds called ratids, and they are incredibly well-adapted survival machines. We're talking birds that can stand up to 1.9 meters tall, that's well over 6 feet, weigh up to 55 kilograms, and can aggressively sprint at 50 kilometers per hour. With their giant, powerful webbed feet and endless nomadic stamina, they were a formidable natural force. They were turning these carefully cultivated wheat fields into an all-you-can-eat buffet, while effortlessly trampling down heavy wooden fences like they were made of matchsticks. So to counter this massive avian threat, in comes Major G.P.W. Meredith and his 2 guys. They were armed with Lewis machine guns, which were these highly formidable, rapid-fire weapons used extensively in the trenches of World War I, capable of firing 500 rounds per minute. They brought 10,000 rounds of ammunition, fully expecting a simple, straightforward slaughter. And, perhaps out of sheer military overconfidence and a desire for some good PR, they literally brought a cinematographer along to capture their guaranteed, glorious victory on film for the newsreels back home. So, looking at the 1932 feathered invasion, let's quickly set the stage for exactly why the government felt compelled to declare a literal war on its own national bird. These farmers were actually facing a total trifecta of disaster. After World War I, the government set up this soldier settlement scheme, basically allocating remote, incredibly difficult land to thousands of veterans to farm wheat in Western Australia. These struggling veteran-turned farmers were getting hit hard from all sides. The Great Depression completely crashed their global crop prices, leaving them practically penniless. Then, a severe drought struck. And finally, those 20,000 emus, operating purely on survival instinct, migrated inland seeking scarce water. Finding these man-made oases of irrigated wheat, the birds just effortlessly flattened the crops and destroyed the fences, which then let other pests like rabbits rush in and finish off whatever was left. The farmers were entirely desperate. All right, moving on to deploying the machine guns. Driven by that pure desperation, the farmers asked for rifles, but the Minister of Defense decided to go all out and officially send the military instead. So on November 2nd, the first official military engagement kicks off at a place called Campion, and man, it was a deeply humiliating day for the armed forces. In the morning, the troops confidently spot a small flock of about 50 emus. Midday rolls around, and local settlers try to herd the birds into a classic tight ambush range for the machine guns. But by the afternoon, the emus completely shattered the military's dreams of a point-blank barrage. The birds absolutely refused to herd together into a neat little target. Instead, they immediately scattered into the trees, zigzagging wildly and running effortlessly right out of range of the heavy weapons. Just a complete and utter failure right out of the gate. Which brings us to their guerrilla tactics and jammed guns. The troops were about to learn the hard way that this bizarre campaign would be entirely defined by mechanical failures and surprisingly brilliant bird strategies. 2 days later, on November 4th, the soldiers think they've got a foolproof plan. They wait in a stealthy ambush near a local watering dam, patiently letting a massive flock of about 1,000 thirsty emus approach to within a point-blank range of just 100 yards. It's the absolutely perfect setup for maximum damage, right? They open fire on the densely packed flock. but literally just as the operation begins, the machine guns catastrophically jam after a mere dozen kills. The weapons completely lock up. And by the time the frustrated soldiers finally clear the mechanical jam, the remaining hundreds of emus had simply sprinted away into the brush, escaping totally unscathed. And this is where it gets really wild. The media and soldiers alike noted that the birds seemed to actually understand military science. Observers on the ground reported with awe, and I quote, "The Emu Command had evidently ordered guerrilla tactics, and its unwieldy army soon split up into innumerable small units." Seriously, each pack seemed to have a designated leader, this massive black-plumed bird that stood full height and kept diligent watch as a sentry. The second the soldiers approached, this leader would warn the flock, allowing them to scatter in a dozen different directions before a single shot could even be lined up. Completely outmaneuvered by the tactical brilliance of these birds, the military decides they need mobility, deploying what we can only call the slapstick truck ambush. You can almost hear the cartoon chase music playing here. First, they mount a heavy machine gun onto a moving truck to try and keep up. Second, they aggressively chase these 45-mile-per-hour birds across incredibly bumpy, deeply rutted outback farm terrain. Third, the truck is bouncing so wildly over the dirt and rocks that the gunner couldn't even aim the heavy weapon, let alone fire a single accurate shot. And finally, the whole high-speed chase only comes to a grinding halt when a bumbling emu literally crashes directly into the vehicle and gets hopelessly tangled in the steering wheel, stopping the entire mechanized assault dead in its tracks. After that total rolling disaster, the military had to briefly withdraw to lick their wounds. And Major Meredith's post-battle excuses to the press were absolutely incredible. He seriously stated, "If we had a military division with the bullet-carrying capacity of these birds, it would face any army in the world. They can face machine guns with the invulnerability of tanks." He was dead serious. As it turned out, their tough leathery hides and incredibly dense thick feathers meant that a glancing machine gun bullet rarely led to death or severe injury. The birds were quite literally shrugging off military-grade weapons fire and just running away. So, spoiler alert, the emus win the war. As news of the failure spread, politicians openly mocked the operation. The government quickly realized they had become a global punchline, and the birds had decisively won. Now, check out these stats. The military did briefly go back for a second phase of the operation after some intense political pressure, but the final statistics tell a pretty suspicious story. When the campaign finally ended for good, Major Meredith claimed a total of 986 confirmed kills using exactly 9,860 rounds of heavy ammunition. Now, that is a conveniently perfect exact 10-to-1 ratio that historians naturally question today. It suggests that out of a belt of 10 bullets, exactly one resulted in a lethal hit every single time. Was it a real statistic or just a deeply embarrassed commander trying to save face on his bullet-to-kill ratio? Either way, the ultimate victor, without a doubt, remained the emus, who just continued to roam the farmlands largely undisturbed by the army. In the end, the military withdraws in total humiliation, and the Emu War officially wraps up. But the birds certainly didn't leave. Instead of heavy artillery, the real solution proved to be way more practical and a lot less cinematic. The government implemented a localized bounty system, letting the veteran farmers handle the problem themselves, which they did, claiming over 57,000 dead emus in just a 6-month period in 1934 alone. Plus, they permanently deployed much better, stronger agricultural fencing to protect crops from future migrations. It definitively proved that fighting nature with machine guns and military bravado is a total fool's errand. And, as a happy ending for the resilient species, emus actually received formal legislative protection in 1999, ensuring their place in the wild, and they continue to thrive across the continent today. So, taking all this slapstick futility into account, I want to leave you with this final question. Did the military's embarrassing withdrawal mean the emus officially won the Great Emu War? Or did nature just teach us a hilarious, much-needed lesson in humility? Think about how often we try to use sheer brute force to solve ecological problems, only to find out the ecosystem is a lot smarter and way faster than we are. Definitely keep that in mind the next time you see a flock of birds.